And this week we were going to, today and tomorrow, because if kids in 7th grade aren't mastered at this point, who cares? It's their fault. But before, I've been having to meet with people at extensions, but I do feel really bad. So my apologies. You guys still did do really well. You did the best out of any team that I have taken. So still, you've got those bragging rights of you're the best Phoenix team I've ever had. I have them in an email. Let's plan a club meeting when we can actually I'll buy pizza for you guys or something. We can go over scores and stuff. Yeah, so let's get through Discovery Day and find a day that we can actually have lunch together or something. Does that work? You did really well, and actually, funny enough, you and Calvin, I think was the 7th grader we took. You guys tied, which shows how he did really well for a 7th grader.
He was another one who was in my math class.
I know. So there's this roller coaster in Japan. I hope my YouTube doesn't get hit for copyright, but yeah, that goes into the ground. That goes under the water.
I'm pretty sure there's one at Disney.
It's so scary. Yeah, okay.
I'm pretty sure there's the log ride at Disney that goes under the water and you get splashed.
It looks fucking far away, but when you actually get the real point of view, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It went under the ground.
So
I'm pretty sure there's a log ride at Disney that is
there might be.
Get wet and then you go under the water.
We took a class trip to Minor 49ers amusement park. This is one of those times where CPM makes stuff up. This isn't true. And Alfredo, our classmate, notices that on the ride Gold Digger's Gulch, there is a gully, right? A gulch, if you were to use a word that you don't hear very often. And he starts collecting data, because, every person at an amusement park just starts collecting data. And what he sees is, now this is a snippet of the roller coaster. So in previous years, kids have thought that's the start and that's the end. No, this is he just took a picture of a snippet of the roller coaster. This is 300 feet above ground level, which that's tall. And then from the point here where the car is, here to the point here where it enters, that is 50 feet. Right? From, wide.
Oh.
From the point where it enters to the point where it exits is 100 feet wide. And this is all matched behavior. So that would be another 50 feet. And this would be another 300. Are we cool with the data that has been collected?
It would. Doesn't make sense. How would it have enough energy to go back up?
Because it's not that, it wouldn't only be the 300 feet, it's a portion of it.
It's carrying momentum into this move.
Yeah.
So as long as you have more momentum coming in than you need to get back up the other side of the track, you can do stuff like this. So we've got a lot of momentum. Is that potential or kinetic energy?
Yeah, when you're up there, potential.
Ooh, up there is potential, but then it turns into kinetic. So actually it's both, really. I guess we can argue. I should not have even asked that question. So our task is to write an equation for the path of the car on the track, letting x be the horizontal distance from the start, and y being the height of the car. So the easiest way that we could start to model this parabola would be to choose a nice, where are my vertices? How am I going to set up my vertices? And then go from there. Sammy, you got an idea?
It's not about that, but I'm confused. It says the horizontal distance from the start. What? Is that from, where the car is now to where,
I know. That's a good question.
What?
Sophia?
So I think we'd want to put the y at where the top of it is, in that, at the 300, and then the x is ground.
So if y is the height of the car in relationship to the ground, snap. So that really means, if we go with what they told us, the x-axis is ground level.
It's like a parabola.
This is why I said you might want a ruler. Come on. That. So ground level, right? And if we call, so like you said, are you saying the y-axis needs to be like over here?
Yeah, since it's in relation to that.
Man, that puts our vertice over here. You guys know how to build these things, right? What's our parent function always?
Oh, we could say the y-intercept is 300.
Y equals x squared is the parent
But we can say that the y-intercept is 300.
Wait a minute, what?
Remember, in graphing form, that, as we talked about last week, is our parent function, although we have 1, 0, and 0 at the very beginning, right? A modifier of 1 because it wouldn't change, and then 0, 0, but not for this situation. So you guys need to work as a team to figure out what our equation would actually be.
So you said it was similar, right?
What do you mean similar?
Like it's kind of like it's a parabola.
Oh, it's symmetric.
Symmetrical.
Yeah. The behavior of this section of the roller coaster is symmetric.
So then wouldn't like it the vertex be like at 100 because you do half of 100 where it goes down and you add the 50.
Why are you asking me? You're talking like you're
I'm
talking
talking to open space and no one's answering or saying anything, so I just
Okay, well, so, yeah, it's 100 over.
right.
We agree
You
with
mean,
that.
And then the y-intercept's like 300.
wait, isn't it 200 in
Yeah.
total? The horizontal distance 200 in total?
What?
At 50?
No, but the vertex is at 100.
Wait, is that
And the
100?
y-intercept's 300.
Is that 100 down or 100?
The vertex is
100
at
over.
100.
Okay. So the horizontal is
to. Yeah, that 100 at the bottom is the width from entry of the tunnel to exit of the
So is
tunnel.
it minus 100 because it's like half the 100 plus 50?
No, it's positive 100 because like if you were to graph it like that.
Remember right?
No, we had another way to talk about parabola behavior.
I'm confused now.
Good.
Didn't we also talk about parabolas? Maybe if they weren't perfect square, kind of like y equals, I don't know, there might be an a, but x minus something, plus or minus, and x plus or minus something else. Right? If it wasn't perfect square, or if we don't know the graphing form, or shoot, if we just don't want to start in the graphing form. So if this way isn't making a lot of sense.
Wait. Isn't A like how far horizontally is?
A determines the like
compression.
the
Oh, yeah.
compression. Wait, there was a question.
So A really determines
Whether it's like compressed.
steepness, it's slope.
Wait.
Really, A is a slope modifier.
Wait, A is compression. One of the questions was asking me like compressed vertically. So
Like H.
A when A is greater than 1, it starts to compress.
Yes, it comes tighter to the axis.
So it
Yep.
becomes more vertical.
Yep.
So okay.
Because the outputs get larger faster.
Okay. Cool.
So it is steeper.
Okay, cool, I get it.
Wouldn't X be minus 100?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I said.
No, H.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say.
Yeah. X
No,
minus-
hold up. Do you know what this is?
No.
That's the problem.
Isn't it?
What do you mean why?
If it's a
Isn't it
parabola,
150?
shouldn't that be?
Because it's the 50
Yeah,
plus
but-
100.
Oh, we don't know people.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, wait. I was just about to say, you can plug it.
Only if we knew some other information.
Alright.
So wait, do we know this?
Yeah.
Do we know this?
No.
Oh, well, let's just write down what we know. So this is 50, 0.
150, 0.
And this is 150, 0. So we've got our zeros. So yes, make a quick little sketch of this on your paper.
And we have the y-intercept.
This is at, where's this red point?
At 300.
Yeah, 0, 300. And then we know this point We know this is parabolic, but we're not sure what is happening. Well, 50, 100, another 50.
Well, we know that the
This
y
would be
is
like,
300.
yeah, this would be like 200,
This is a mess now.
300. Wouldn't that be like 200, 300 up here, like this point, if it mirrors?
Yeah. That would be truly We're just trying
Yes
to...
with a question mark or yes?
No.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Sophia, I did already respond to your mom. She emailed me this morning about that.
Okay.
Which, with lots of shame and sadness.
Oh no, I
I
did
said
do it
my
wrong.
mistake. Because I know your mom was probably equally as excited as we were. I'm gonna let you guys grapple with this for a minute while I try to figure out if I've lost my wedding ring or not.
So
The fun thing
so
about
the
being an
Y is
adult is
100 and the X.
Aha, I did not lose my wedding ring. I take it off to clap a lot of times because if I don't, my clap doesn't really work that well.
okay. That scared me.
So you want a really good
Don't worry, it's like $12 on Amazon.
Wait.
I have my real one at home somewhere, but it got too. Have I not told this story? My real one's too small because I bought it in winter, and your body gets like dry and shrinks down in winter kind of. So right now this is sort of loose, but I like this better because it's got a wood inlay, and I like do woodworking and stuff. So when that one was too small, my wife was like, "Just get another one. I don't care if it's the real wedding ring." So I just bought another one on Amazon. Now her ring, you can't just replace that easy. But mine was made of titanium to begin with, and this is made of like tungsten carbide and then mahogany. So it's men's rings are a lot cheaper.
I know nothing about these rings.
Good, because you're like 13 and you shouldn't.
I know nothing about wedding rings. Well, I know something.
I think when I was 13, what I know about weddings was I got forced to dance and I was never comfortable.
I've been to a wedding.
I've only been to one
I don't want to
wedding.
sit there and listen to the dude.
It's sad. I've been to way more funerals than
I
weddings.
just stand up.
Okay.
I've never been to a wedding or a funeral.
Yeah, but all I know is that like everyone's crying right before they kiss, and then they actually kiss, and then there's like a long.
I have an idea. What if I delete that whole picture but I keep what we know?
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Makes
It
it easier to see.
is kind of easier to
It
see.
makes it less like
I agree. It's very. Guys, I keep losing my pens. I found my wedding ring. I lost my pen.
I mean, it's okay.
It's a give take.
As soon as
It's a
you find
good
one
thing.
thing, use another. You know.
So if we start setting up y equals, there might be an a there. We're not sure.
Can I look at the pictures?
What would fill into our parentheses?
I don't know.
I was going to give you time to do this on your own, but then I distracted you. The what? These? These. So, so negative 50, because remember it's the opposite, and then negative 150. Questions on why that's what we have.
Wait, yeah.
So I don't remember much from last week because there was a whole.
You know but when you do the property thingy.
It's like the zero.
It's the zero product property.
Okay, I understand. Because then x would equal 50 and x would equal 150, just like those points. I understand. Hold on, let me write this.
So I get that.
Now, if we know that those are true,
Plus or minus 3.
we can build. Now, hold on. We can build a trinomial based off of those.
I get
Now,
that.
wait, can we say plus 300 or minus 300 or something with the 300 right now?
No.
Well, I'm just asking the question. Please do not take like how I ask a question. I feel like because I asked it, you said no.
Sophia said it's the y-intercept, so it's just like you know it's gonna be plus 300 after you put it together.
When this is 0, this, if it exists, doesn't matter. And the only thing we have to make true when x is 0 is this. So yeah, we do go ahead and put that in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and write this in green because it's kind of like the next thing we know. Y equals a times, and here's the other thing we could do. Go ahead and make this a trinomial. If you want. If that's going to confuse you, don't yet. But if I do, it's x squared minus 200x plus, oh crap,
5 times 15.
75, 7,500.
Oh,
You guys
shoot.
Well, 5 times 15 is 75. Put 2 more zeros on because the 0 there, the 0 there. I think 7,500.
Yeah.
I trust you.
Now wait, crap. Wait, I know because crap.
You don't want to add 300. You want to make it so that the last number is 300.
Oh, so wait, I can't put the 300 out here.
You gotta figure out.
Oh, so I can't
I'm already
fill in this
I
space.
literally wrote what you wrote already.
That's fine. We're gonna like cross things out as we realize like, oh wait, we can't do that. We want the y value to equal 300 when x is 0. But now we see that, well, even though plugging in an x is like
So we could
50 or 150 here, well, remember, if I make x 50, this is 0, but this is not.
So if we
Because
find
there are
like,
two X's.
But I'd still crap, but I'd multiply and then that would become 0.
so,
Yeah.
And
so if we
Wait,
find
are you confusing yourself or are you acting confused?
I don't know, and neither do you, so we better work together.
Mr. Hudson doesn't know.
So wait, we don't want to put this here yet.
Yeah.
Or maybe we do, but who knows? I'm not sure. Let's keep trying things. Do we agree that this is true?
Yeah.
That based off zero product property, this would become true?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
if we find a or k, then we could say that y equals 300 when x equals 0, and then solve for the other one.
so what we could do is put a 300 in for the y if we put a 0 in for the x.
Because we know that's the y intercept.
So let's go ahead and say, okay, if y is if y is 300,
That's what I was trying to say.
I know, my bad.
Yelling.
What?
A plus x squared
You mean time?
minus 200x.
Well,
Yes, you're right.
and we could do like, I think we have to find a or k first, and I don't know how we do
Well, we said y is 300 when
Oh, A or K.
When- y is not just 300. Y is 300 when
x equals 0.
x equals 0, or actually when x equals 200.
Yeah,
But let's just go with the x equals 0 right now. So if x equals 0,
Yeah, but then we have like a
this is 0 squared, so 0. Right, that all wipes out. This is 0, so that wipes out. So we get 300 equals a times 7,500.
That's what, yeah. So then we could find an a.
What is 75 divided by 3?
25.
Or other way around, sorry, what is 3 divided by 75?
It's 0.
Oh, work in fractions, friends.
4 hundredths.
A is 1/25th?
I like how you put in the question mark at the end to confuse them.
It is.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Of course A is 1/25th.
No, it's
4
0.
times 20.
0.04.
So yeah.
Wait, and if it's less than 1, that means that it should get wider.
Right.
Okay.
So, as opposed to the
So
standard parabola behavior of squaring the distance, dude, imagine if you went 3 feet horizontally and went 9 feet vertically. That'd be pretty quick acceleration. They widened the parabola because they don't want to kill their riders, right? So even though there are some,
Well, I mean, they wouldn't die. You just go.
you just end up kind of liquefied.
You wouldn't feel very good.
So wait, do we know how wide this is, right? That was 100, they told us. So this 50, and then to get over to here, we actually do know the x value of that point. That's 100.
Yeah.
based off the x value,
That's
right?
what
That's what we said.
Yeah.
we said that.
Okay. Do we know the y value here?
No. So plug it in the equation.
So y equals.
Does it have any?
100 feet to the right of horizontal. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any more information they didn't give us.
Wait, when it says 50 feet down, does that mean like the bottom of the parabola is 50 feet down?
Where does it say 50 feet?
Yeah. Or not.
This says
Never
50
mind.
feet over.
I thought you said that it was 50 feet down, but never mind. It looks like you said it, but we should probably try and figure out what that is, though. It'd be helpful.
Can we plug it in the equation?
Can we plug it into the equation?
I mean, we can. It might not.
Don't go over because we don't have a k value.
So we're saying we know that this, not because of this 100, but because of this 100, we know that h has to be 100?
Yeah.
Do we know everything else aside from the y there?
No.
Crap, well that means we don't know the k either.
Yeah.
Okay, what if we put in a point that we know and then just.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Go ahead. What if we put in a point that we know and we solve for the k?
I
Yeah,
thought
let's
you
just do
already
that.
put down that idea.
No, all because I pick one to move forward does not mean that there's an issue.
Let's do 50.
What are you using 50 0?
Which one?
50 because it's
50
smaller.
to x 0.
This is small.
So 0 equals a is 125.
Not top why you do it because it confuses me.
David wants to watch the world burn.
What?
That makes confusing you.
Why do I want to watch the world burn? I wanted to watch it flood.
That's 1/25 of 2. Oh, that's.
Wait, h has to be 100,
It's
right?
okay, David. You're just a code
Wait, h is
maniac.
100, right?
No.
Okay, I hope I'm doing this right, because I'm.
I got a number, but I just want to check it. No, it's right.
What did you get?
That's where your last word
Well,
of what
yeah, I got
you
0
get it
equals
first.
0.
Well,
So it works.
geez, I don't know what I got yet.
What? Did you not put K?
Let's see if I do this.
You have to do like I want to test
It's supposed to
1/25
put
of
in
250.
K
So
as
it's
a variable, so then you figure out
50 times
Well, I got
1/25 of
0 equals k.
I got k equals -10.
you did it wrong.
You did it wrong.
Does k equal what I think it equals?
I don't understand how this is possible.
Yep. Yep.
0.
What did you get?
Says yep, erases paper.
I erased the calculator.
K should be negative 100.
I was right.
Wait, how?
More
You
like,
don't need to scream when you get something.
K should be negative 100.
I got a hundred. I got 100. I looked at the ratio of -10. I was like, oh god, I was so
How would it be?
Now that's if we're in graphing form. So remember, this is not K.
Holy crap.
This is K.
How would it be? I did do that wrong. I'm sorry.
We just said we know this is true. Right? We know the vertex is at 100 something. Hold on. We also have said we know this is true. Take what you know is true. Y equals 1/25 x minus 100 squared plus or minus k. Now that leaves us with 3 variables which we don't like. However, we know some points.
We did 50
Plug it in. So if you do 50 0 or 0 300, we can plug in. Okay, so you said you did 50 0.
because it was smaller and easier to work with.
No, I just did 50 squared.
And I
is 250.
followed you guys. 2005. And I was led down the wrong path.
You followed Sophia.
Yeah, I followed Sophia and for the
What's 50 minus 100?
trip card.
Negative 50.
I should have learned from my teacher that he is mad that their favorite conjugation of
No, I thought it was
Close, dude.
interesting because of what people have been putting, and also I found it a hack. So.
Do not trust your calculator.
Yep.
If you do 50 minus 100 squared, you will get negative
Wait,
2,500.
Wait.
That's not correct.
Wait.
Do not trust your calculator.
You told me this last year when I got into a fight with Savita about the calculator.
Do not trust your
I did
calculator.
negative 50 squared, but it still gave me the right answer.
See, that was my issue because I just broke it.
Issue is
I
you're
just
not
broke it in the right way.
ha. Get it? Ha. Because you're bad that you
Oh,
can't
when
make
you
them
do it in the and.
I'm not bad, but
when
Nora
you
and
do it
Sophia
like
are.
normally, it doesn't
because
work.
you can't make their clothes.
If you do it in a.
So, does this make sense how we get to 100
Yeah.
plus or minus k has to be 0?
So it has to be minus.
So k then has to be negative 100.
Looks like an
What?
R.
Wait,
But
so
it's
it can't
plus
be plus?
Why can't it be plus?
Because if it was plus, it would still be plus negative 100.
Because it
No, but
wouldn't
if you
equal
subtract
each
100
other.
from both sides,
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
then it'd be
But
negative.
remember, k is how it looks. Our k value is always plus. So what we now see is y equals 1/25. We still agree on that, right? X minus 100. We agree on that, right? Because x is actually plus 100 down here. Squared, sorry. Minus 100, or you could do plus negative 100, but that's kind of excessive. K is negative 100. You can't say, oh, minus k. No, we add k. We do plus k. So be careful. Yes, and then I'm coming to you. The temptation. I kind of wanted to make a joke about the singing group from like forever ago. But the temptation is that this somehow has to put a 300 in your equation.
You circle that like 5 times.
3, but yeah. Well, 3 different colors. That's not true. So the point of this activity is to make sure that you realize all because we have a y-intercept does not mean that we're going to actually show that 300 in our equation. We don't. We actually end up showing negative 100. That is not the intercept. Remember, that's graphing form. Graphing form is going to look different than the other form. But now we can put this in a not graphing form. So, Sophia, what's your question while I write a couple
I
things?
just wanted to point out. So I drew like the thing to scale at the beginning, and I accidentally gave it like the correct amount, like the correct.
You just got lucky, or what?
Yeah, and I think I just looked at it and I'm like, oh. But I'm proud of that. And also, it looks like
I
a
would
roller
be.
coaster that I'd most certainly kill you.
Yeah, same.
Well, actually, no, because there's a roller coaster that you literally just go straight down.
I think
but you don't go like 10 feet and then go straight out.
say that again. You flip into
Hey,
yourself.
hold on. Stay with me. Then I'll show you the roller coaster Athena's talking about, because actually I have that video pulled up.
I know
Does
you
this...
put it down, but you don't go-
Hey, does this make sense how I got from vertex form to... I don't even know what form we call it, because it's not standard form. It's on its way to it. Does that make sense?
I thought
Please do this with me, just so we can see how we get to what we get to.
Yes, I think
Then we apply the 1/25. Right, so the 1/25 just goes in front of our x.
when you did the 7,500, was that wrong? That was wrong, right?
No.
No, that's 1/4.
What?
I'm gonna write down what you guys tell me.
No.
What's a 25th of 200?
8.
8 x. What's a 25th of 10,000? 4. Oh.
Look, it's a 300.
There's our 300 that's gonna show up. 1/25 x squared. You're not writing this down, so I'm not really listening for your question right
I
now.
had a question because I was confused and I didn't want to write down something before I knew what it was actually.
This equals our gold miners roller coaster, or G of X, whatever you want to call it.
Hold on, I'm writing it. So anyway, I have a question.
Yes.
No. So when we did the 7,500, that was wrong, right? Because we put in the 300 and you wanted.
When we did the what?
The 7,500.
That 7,500 wasn't wrong. It was the fact that we wrote this here. We're not allowed to do that.
So then how did you get from the 7,500 to the
Wait, hold on, let's change it.
10,000?
So let's run through this whole thing again.
Well,
I'm gonna just. I'll answer your
I
question.
don't.
So what is the point of the new equation?
We used. I'm gonna go back up to it. We used our zeros that we knew were true.
Yeah.
Don't try to put anything out here. Because then we combined the factored pieces to get our trinomial. Still, that trinomial is not right, but it's close, like it's closer, right? Because we know the A is going to come into play. So then we plugged in a point of 0, 300. We plugged in our y-intercept. So really, the points we used here were the x-intercepts here, and the y-intercept here. Circled again. That let us get this, 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 and these. The only thing we didn't have was the A, because right now we're not worried about a K. We processed down through to find out, well, A has to be 1/25th.
Yeah.
Because using the x-intercepts and the y-intercept, we've actually already kind of adjusted for the fact that like the intensity's off. Because think about it, we're using two different sets of intercepts. If you only use the x-intercepts, the A could still be who knows what it is. If you only use the y-intercept, the A could still be who knows what it is. But when we use both, we know this A has to be like that because essentially the slope to go from the y-intercept to the x-intercept has to be a certain, like, it has to be manipulated in a certain way. Slope there is essentially 1/25th of what it would be in the original parabola. With me?
Yeah.
Then, knowing what our modifier is, our A, we put it into vertex form because we knew a piece of the vertex that is absolutely going to be true. We then also plugged in another point. Doesn't matter what. You can plug in whatever you want. X, Y. Just choose something that you think is easy. From there, it has to be true. So we find out K, to make this true, has to be negative 100, if we're careful and we do our work in our calculator correct. From there, we know factored form is true, just with the K that we have now found out. So we write it in factored form, in vertex form with the K we just found out. You could also put it in factored form, but then you couldn't just throw your K on, like it would behave different. Yes, vertex form is the graphing form.
There's so many forms.
Well, that's why it's called vertex form, is it tells you how to graph it. So then we multiplied this out.
Yeah.
I should be using highlighters, not all these circles. So we multiplied this out, applied the modifier, applied the K, and we get our final roller coaster form of 1/25th x squared minus 8x plus 300.
I think I did it.
Any more questions about this?
Wait, so the form is y equals a times x plus h, and then
X
plus
minus h squared plus k.
Yeah, what's
The rule again?
The roller coaster.
Wait.
Oh.
Magically
Give me a
straight
sec.
down.
Well,
So wait.
we have another thing we're supposed to do.
We only have like 5 minutes.
Well, we have 5 minutes though. So at our minor 49er amusement park, they need to cover $300,000 each day to be able to pay everything they need to pay. All the water, the electricity, the people they employ, the food they make, like all that stuff. Now, assumedly, every person that comes into the park, they're making money, quote unquote making money. But you don't actually make money till you pass that break-even point. Right? So they're bringing money in, but they need to actually make money. So what we need to do is adjust this function they've given us to project the revenue for a given day if X people visit the park. Is revenue profit?
No, it's just how much money they make before
Yeah.
they subtract.
Revenue is what you bring in.
roasted corn?
Profit is revenue minus costs. right? That's what profit is your revenue minus your costs. So wait, if this function models our revenue and we need to do revenue minus cost, can't we just mess with that function to do a P of X? So if we write out our P of X, because this is the standard I'm actually supposed to make sure that we teach, but this is an easier standard.
Why do you put it as P of X?
Because profit will be.
Just because.
You can name it whatever you want.
Okay.
So profit will be R of X minus $300,000. Right? Amusement parks are expensive to run. Well, really though, you should be doing this with me.
Then couldn't you just like put in R of X as what the equation is?
Yeah. Crap, put my parentheses in the wrong place. Minus so this I think becomes 5x squared plus 500x. Yeah. That plus 5 when we start is like a constant.
What do you mean by plus 5?
Right, I'm just trying to dissect what this might mean. There's some sort of, they for sure know they make $5 worth of money off each person. I guarantee the tickets are more than that, but somehow that 5 has to come into play. So I bet like tickets are like $105 or something like that. Because think about it, if X is one person, the amount of money they make off a person is 100 times whatever. Because they said X people, right? Yeah, X people. So we could start to dissect, like, what does this actually mean? I'm just kind of trying to waste a little bit of time. Minus, because I was making sure you guys catch up. Minus 300,000. So the question actually becomes, and you're going to need your calculator for this, for what amount of people is our P positive?
Should we like be like the turning point? Well, and maybe in whole people.
I get it. Well, maybe a baby counts as half a person.
I don't think someone's gonna take a baby to an amusement park.
What?
I mean, they could. It
Well,
just,
they won't.
they
They
want
can't
to go
really
on
enjoy
any
it.
other
I know, but
ride.
like parents, for some reason, just like parents.
And they don't want to leave their kid outside in the cars for
Like
like 5
parents
hours.
strolling their babies into the amusement park because the
Oh
baby
no, the babies should probably fit because they don't
yeah,
install the
because
rides.
they can't do anything anyway.
Well, what if they charge like extra for the kids? Like
The
$60.
parents would legit leave.
They'd make a lot less money if they
Yeah, they would.
scare everyone.
Scared away the adults.
If we graph this, sorry, I'm not getting you out here early today. I try normally. But if we graph this,
You're gonna be screaming at me.
5x squared so our parabola
It's very compressed.
is very large and it's very compressed.
What does this mean though?
If we zoom in, well, can there be negative visitors to the park? No, so ignore all the negative x values. What does this point really mean? 200 people. So the park makes money, or we could say P of X is positive when X is greater, not equal,
Because
but greater than 200. That's as far as I definitely had to get today. Sorry to keep you to the normal time of dismissal. So, my bad. I don't know. Hopefully either tomorrow or when we come back from spring break. So I've had a lot going on recently.
Spring break.
It's not Discovery Day break. You know what I mean. Discovery Day break.
I'm just saying.